with a really long video. All right, so we will start off with a new project. C#. We're just going to do a Windows form application. And this will be our midterm review. All right, so the goal here is to have an application with multiple forms, so at least 2 forms. So I'm going to start out by labeling this in my properties dialog as my main form. I'm just putting that up in the title bar. And then under my Solution Explorer, I'm going to add a second form. And this will be my add user form. And I'll call it add space user. All right. I'll save that. All right. So typically when I build an application, I like to kind of look at the synopsis entirely, and then I like to work my way from what I consider to be the bottom up. So I think this situation, in our situation, is going to be that we're building an application that simply allows you to manage the logins for a website. But we're building a backend application. It's not a web-based tool, but we're interacting with the same database, and we're wanting to manage user logins for a website. So think of this like if you were calling your bank or insurance company or anywhere else where you have a login, but they have a backend system that's managed by a call center. That call center is using a Windows application to connect to the database or data source, and then they're doing the management through that Windows app. Make sense? Okay. So we're architecting this from the bottom up. So for me, I start with the data layer, the database. What do I need to do to get the system up and running? I need to actually create a database, create tables, and then implement all of that and get that into the database itself so that I can then write code against it. Now, with your machine, if you don't know if you have SQL or if you're having problems connecting with SQL, what I would recommend, and this is a Windows 8 machine, but Windows 7 is similar, pull up your Start menu or Start screen, and then type in SQL. And you should end up getting some search results. If you get none, which I have seen happen occasionally, search for SQL config, and what you should find is a SQL Server Configuration Manager. If you still don't have any luck, on a Windows 8 machine, you hit this little down arrow here located in the lower left-hand corner of your tiles. On a Windows 7 machine, you actually have a Start menu, so you do all programs. You get something that looks kind of like this. You'll notice here that I have a SQL Server 2012 area of my programs. On your All Programs menu, you'll have a SQL Server 2012 menu option. And again, you'll see SQL Server Configuration Manager. Now, if you're on your machine and you don't see any of that, you probably don't have SQL installed. If you do see the Configuration Manager, click on it. You may get prompted to elevate, choose yes, and it'll come up with this window. The one we want to choose is SQL Server Services over on the left-hand side, and then I usually expand mine out. And what you're looking at is the SQL services that are currently installed and or running on your computer. So on my computer, I have a SQL Server. In parentheses, it says SQL Express. I also have a SQL Server agent and a SQL Server browser. Now, both the agent and the browser are stopped. The SQL Server, SQL Express, is running. If your SQL Server is stopped, that's the first thing you need to fix. You need to simply click on it and then hit the play button up here in the toolbar above. That'll get SQL Server running. Now, mine says SQL Server with SQL Express in parentheses. If you are running Express, it'll come up this way, a default instance or installation of Express. If you are running a full version of SQL Server, this will come up and say SQL Server, and then in parentheses, typically it says MS SQL Server. The difference between a default instance and a SQL Express instance is just that, is that you can have multiple instances of SQL installed on the same computer or the same server. And they're called named instances. So in the video last week, I did parentheses local, which refers to the local machine, / SQL Express. My named instance was SQL Express. That's why I do / SQL Express. If you do a full install of SQL Server, that will simply come up as local. There's no / anything. It's just local because that is the default instance of SQL installed on that machine. Yeah.
I did, like, I have the name of my computer as James, so I did James / James, and it let me connect. I didn't do local.
So you can use the computer name itself.
That's because like I had SQL Server Management Studio open at that time, and I just went to like the name of the server, and it was James / James, because that's what I used to connect on SQL Server. So you can.
So
I did that, yeah. It let me connect. It let me connect to the server and create a database.
Okay.
Through Visual Studios on the server.
Okay. So what that means is that the name of the computer is James, and that's really what that local is. It's just instead of putting the computer name, it's just saying connect to this local machine. But in an instance where it's hosted elsewhere, or if you want to do it explicitly, you can put the name of the machine. So you can say, in your case, James, and then it sounds like you have an instance of SQL installed called James. So yours would say SQL Server and then James in parentheses if you pulled up this screen. So that's just some clarification around that connection string piece to help you understand and troubleshoot your own computer. Now, once you've gotten this far, and this is where SQL Management Studio comes in handy,